So you want to start a photography business in 2025. Today I want to go over a few things that I would do if I was starting my business today, January 1, 2025. But first, it's early. Let's make some coffee. Then we'll go outside and talk about it. Alrighty, so starting a photography business in 2025, things that I would do differently if I was starting my business today versus back in 2011 or 12 when I actually kicked off the business side of things and decided to start shooting professionally and charging people for money. So number one, the first thing I would recommend to beginning photographers is do not go into debt to do this, because unfortunately, just like a lot of things, there's a good chance that you will fail. In other words, you have an unhappy client, lose all your data, or something catastrophic happens to one of your cameras. Most photographers at that point, or any business owner for that matter, will then decide that they don't want to push forward, they're going to give up. The biggest thing is don't go into debt for something that you're not sure is going to pay off in the long run. Start small, get you a camera off a marketplace. If you already have a camera, that's awesome. Try to find something that's good enough to deliver professional quality results. And let's face it, you gotta somewhat be able to look the part as well. Like, in other words, I am fully capable of going and shooting a family shoot or a engagement shoot or whatever with my iPhone. But would I go and do that and charge people money? Probably not. It doesn't convey that I'm a professional to the client, and you know, looks aren't everything, and I get that, but that is a little bit important when it comes to that type of stuff. So an old D300 for a couple $100 and a lens, and start really building your clientele and your reputation from the get-go without going into debt. You know, when I first got into this, I put cameras on credit cards, and by the grace of God, I was able to pay them off and build from that. But that was a dumb idea. That was very stupid of me to do. So don't go into debt. Start small, work your way up, and build your gear and your gear list as you go. Number two, I would make sure, this probably should be number one, but make sure you know how to use your gear, you know what the exposure triangle is, so that when you go out and you actually are taking photos of these people, you can do it properly. Don't rely on auto. The camera can do a lot for you, and those auto features are there for a reason, but don't rely on them. Learn how to shoot manually. Exposure triangle, once it clicks and makes sense for people, it's very simple. Shutter speed, aperture, ISO, those three in relation to each other affect the other one, and each one will give a different effect. Now, in other words, because all three of them control how much light gets let in, but all three of them have a different type of effect to the photo. So like I say, shutter speed is going to control motion in the photo and how much action is frozen. Then your aperture is going to control the depth of field. In other words, how much is in focus, whether it's all in focus or it's going to be that razor thin shallow depth of field where like just somebody's eye is in focus and then it falls off at their ears. So, and then ISO, that is basically your digital film. That's your digital light sensitivity on your sensor. So the thing to keep in mind with that is the higher you go with digital cameras, the more noise you're going to have to deal with. I personally don't have a problem with noise, so I'll push mine way up. I like it. It doesn't bother me. As long as the photo is good and sharp and it's a good composed image, ISO doesn't bother me. So you'll learn your exposure triangle, learn how to use your gear, because nothing's worse than trying to get out with a family somewhere and all of a sudden you start clicking pictures and they're black, and your brain will completely quit working and you have no idea as to why that photo is black. So learn all your settings, exposure triangle, and then go from there. Number three, this is fairly important as well. A lot of people don't want to do it because they feel like I'm a professional, I should be getting paid, and that is true to an extent, but do not be afraid to shoot for free. I've been doing photography off and on consistently for the last 15 years, but since probably 2000. I go to football games. Just recently, this past football season, started shooting daughter's high school football team, and now I'm shooting their basketball team. And it's one of those things that I've never done sports before, but I wanted to try to get my name out there and try to get a little bit more exposure and get a little bit more experience, a little bit more time behind the camera, because I did upgrade my cameras this year, and they are, while they're the same, they are different. So I wanted to be able to get as much time behind them as I could, because I am shooting quite a few weddings this coming year, and I want to make sure that I can give my clients that I have the best experience possible, because at the end of the day, like I say, the bad things can happen to all of us. I'm not immune to it. But the more time I spend with those new cameras, the more I am going to be comfortable in fixing some sort of little issue that I might have, you know, in a paid scenario. I go to any local event that I can, you know, go to that I'm allowed to shoot, especially public stuff, and I will post those on my website or my Facebook page or Instagram, and I give those photos to those people for free. So it doesn't cost them a dime. They get a cool photo of themselves at, you know, an event like the Trunk or Treat, which we did back in October. And then, like, I've done a few parades, and like I said, the football games and basketball games. You know, these people have professional photos that they're able to use for whatever they want to, and I don't ask a thing from them. The only thing I ask of people whenever I do these type of things is, you know, please, if you remember to tag me in it on social media. That way I get a little bit of exposure. The thing about it is, the things that have come from that, as far as different sessions, senior sessions, family sessions. I've booked a few weddings just from, you know, people know who I am, because I've handed out a few business cards here and there. That's invaluable. That's very important, you know, networking and exposure for your business. So don't be afraid to shoot for free. But this brings me to the next thing. Don't be afraid to charge for your time either. In other words, even though you're out there shooting for free and you're doing things, you know, for the community, for your local schools, or for your, you know, your kids' baseball team, whatever, when people come to you and they you know, see your work and you've started to build your reputation, you know, don't be afraid to ask for you know, a payment, what you feel is a good payment for what you're able to deliver. Now, there's going to be times that people come to you and they say, hey, I, you know, really like to do family portraits, and you may not be comfortable with those yet, but convey to them, hey, I'm new to this. I'm not done it very often or at all, but I'd love to do it for you, and I'd do it for free, just to be able to get the images, and, you know, hopefully get you some images that you like, get me some images that I can use for my marketing and my business and my social media. At that point, you know, there's a little bit of value in it for everybody. So, you know, shoot for free, but also there comes a time to pony up and say, hey, I need to get paid for what I'm doing. So don't be afraid of that. The next piece of advice I would say is, don't be afraid to reach out to local pros that have been in the business for years. There are some out there that are into gatekeeping and all that stuff, and like to kind of hold on to things and don't like to give information. I am not one of those. I have not met but maybe one or two of those in my area. So don't be afraid to reach out to those people, because when it comes down to, you know, family portraits and things like that, you can go out and you can kind of learn that stuff on your own. YouTube is invaluable. You can learn a ton from YouTube. I've learned 99% of everything I know how to do from YouTube, and then the other thing comes from, you know, I have a network of local photographers that, you know, we all have each other's number. We can all text, we can all call. You know, if we have questions, it's not a huge deal. I know if my phone goes off and it's one of my local pros, they have a question and they need help. You know, and the same with them. Like if my phone goes off, like I need help, and you know, with something, with it, whether it be gear related, schedule related, or whatever. And you know, don't be afraid to work with those people. As far as shooting weddings goes, that's a whole nother video, but I would, you know, recommend that you, before you decide you want to shoot weddings, go second shoot with a couple people. You know, most of the time a photographer will pay a second shooter based on their experience level, and if you have no experience, they want to probably have you come. Yeah, you're going to shoot for free and they're going to own your images, but at the end of the day, that is invaluable experience. The way I have my contract set up for my second shooters, especially ones with no experience, is they come and they shoot, they use my cards, and before they leave, I will copy my cards to a hard drive or their SD card, or whatever. So they have their images. They can edit those images and they can share those images with some stipulations as far as when and how and all that stuff. Again, another video, but they still can use those images for their portfolio. Now, I use those images in my business to fill in gap where I need them, you know, with my story that I'm delivering to my wedding clients. But the experience that you can get by second shooting is probably second to none. I never second shot before. I decided I was going to learn on YouTube, and there was nothing to it, and I jumped right into it. And then about 2 years in, you know, after I got some experience with it, I learned that that was probably the biggest mistake I could have ever made. Now, I got lucky. I was very successful with weddings right out of the gate. I've shot probably, I don't know, close to 700 weddings or so in my entire career. But, you know, that could have been a detrimental failure had I not, like I said, studied, practiced all the things before I ever shot my first wedding. That gives you a good chance to learn your gear, learn new techniques, all that good stuff. So I still second shoot with people. You know, if somebody calls me and hey, I need a second shooter, heck yeah, sign me up, I'll be there. And now most of the time what I do is I'll carry my own cards, I'll shoot with my cards, and then I'll just copy my photos to a hard drive and I'll give it to the lead photographer at the end of the night, and then they'll, you know, give it back to me, mail it back to me, whatever. So second shoot and ask questions. Don't be afraid to reach out to people and ask questions. And this is my last tip. I would probably say, had I known what I know now when I started out in photography, or at least with my business side of things, I would have been so much more aggressive on social media. When I first started my Facebook page, my Instagram page, it was very easy to use a targeted ad to target certain places and to get results from that. And you spent very little money. You know, you could spend $10, $15 and I might, you know, book 3 or 4 sessions off of it. Like if I was going to the beach, I would do a targeted ad to the beach and I would try to do 5 or 6 sessions to pay for my beach trip. And, you know, and that worked quite well. I would also reach out to hotels and try to shoot a, you know, some exposure for them. In other words, I'd go around and I'd shoot their property and get them some updated photos, and most of the time I'd have them have 2 different rooms super clean and ready for photos, and I'd go in and I'd document those, you know, as far as you know, for their website. But now social media has changed quite a bit. You have to spend more money to get more return. You don't get the exposure natively that you once did. If people aren't engaging with your post, generally a lot of people won't see them. That's why it's very important when I share a photo or a video or a reel or something and I say, you know, please, you know, like, share, comment, all that stuff. That is very important to the algorithms on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of the things that will get your video pushed out into the masses and seen. Now, social media has also changed a little bit in the aspect that now my stuff, instead of being broadcast more locally, it's more along the lines of being sent out across the, you know, the country, because I've gained more followers over the years, and most of those people aren't local to me. So in other words, the content that I actually put out now versus the content I put out years ago is more content driven and creator driven than it is like business driven or like trying to drum up sales. Now I still do that. I still post, you know, my wedding photography and when I'm booking and what I have available and things like that. But I also post things that I feel like could be beneficial to other folks, you know, across the country, around the world, whatever. Push your social media, be very consistent in your post and be very frequent. So in other words, if you have a posting schedule of posting, you know, every other day at 8 o'clock, try to maintain that. That consistency helps, especially with YouTube. Facebook, I haven't quite noticed it as much, but it is important. I have noticed that the more frequently I post on Facebook, Instagram as well, the more feedback I get versus the fact that if I post once a week, that post, it might not get any exposure. So with that said, if you're starting a photography business in 2025, I personally wish you the absolute best of luck. I hope to continue to put out videos of little things that I learn along the way that hopefully can help other people. You know, check your area, search your area. You know, different things work in other areas that don't work in your area. In other words, you know, in some areas, you know, photographers will share wedding prices online. In some areas that doesn't work so well. So, you know, look at your local people that are actually doing this and so being successful with it. Kind of see what they're doing. By no means don't copy what they're doing, but you can take the tricks and the patterns and manipulate them to yourselves and work those in, you know, to your own workflow. And hopefully that will help you build a successful photography business in 2025. So thank you for watching. I hope that you all have a wonderful, safe, happy new year. I wish you all the best, and I'll see you next time. Check, check, checky, check.